All right, everybody, you guys ready to get started? Thank you all for coming. Thanks for filling the room today, and thanks for everybody that's online joining us. So today's SWUG meeting will be a little different. Doing IronSWUG 2024. I've got Daniel from SolidWorks, Adam and Brad from Altec coming to give a few presentations for us today. So you don't have to listen to me speak the whole time, just a brief little introduction. As all of you here know, I'm Stephen Lee. Some of you online know, may not know. I've been with Altec for 10 years now, 10 years this year, and took on SWUG leader sometime last year. So I know we've covered a bunch of topics, done a bunch of design challenges that we're going to keep moving forward with and everything. So just a few things to keep everybody interested and coming to see what topics are available. So I'm going to get ready to hand the mic off to Daniel. And oh, also, sorry, anybody that has any questions, please raise your hand online so we know to mute and who we can have ask questions and everybody's not jumping on top of each other. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. Wow, we got a packed house today. We got over 30 people online right now, and 24 employees here at the user group in person today. My name is Daniel Granillo, and I'm from SolidWorks. Came in from South Dakota on my motorcycle to ride with these guys for this IronSWUG event. And I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about SolidWorks certification and give you some updates. And by a show of hands, who here is certified? Okay. If you're certified online, raise your hand. One.
Plus one.
Plus one. Okay, so if you're not certified or if you're looking to continue your certification, please stick around. At the end of the presentation today, there'll be a QR code that you can use to obtain a free certification. For those of you in the room, I have this sheets here. You can type in your name and email address, and I'll be sure to get you a free voucher. This will be going out next week for a certification exam. So kickstands up for SolidWorks certification. A little bit about myself. I've been with SolidWorks for the past 8 years now with the certification team, and developed a few exams and updated a few exams as well. My background is manufacturing engineering. I got over 20 years experience with SolidWorks. And when I first came out of college, I got the CSWP, the professional mechanical design. And going into my first job, I was the only one certified. And so everyone looked to me, Daniel, how do you do this? Or Daniel, how do you do that? Just because I was the only certified one in the company. But by helping others, only helped myself, and just sharing knowledge and how to best use SolidWorks really advanced my career. And after almost 10 years with that company, SolidWorks picked me up, and now I'm doing great things for them. My residence is in East Tennessee, and just recently got a new residence in Sturgis. So if you ever come out to Sturgis for the motorcycle rally, be sure to look me up. Noted, yes. And I like to also ride on the streets of Twitter, now X. You can follow me at Daniel J. Granillo. So looking at this screen here, there's a lot of different industries. We got aerospace, industrial, life sciences, manufacturing, engineering services, construction. What does all of these industries have in common? Well, they all use SolidWorks, so the tool is the same. It may be applied differently, but the tool is the same. And proving your skills with the SolidWorks certification will only benefit you. And I'm going to speak to those of you who are employed, since all of you in the room are from Altec. Put it on your goals to obtain a SolidWorks certification. And once you obtain that, next year, okay, I'm going to go after the next one. and really strive to become, the best you can be with the tool that you use with SOLIDWORKS. And so what does, looks like the top is hiding. So what does a SOLIDWORKS certification journey look like? Some may see, cloudy roads up ahead, and that's all, or rainbows, and which means rain, and it can be kind of daunting. Others, it may feel like driving through a small town for some, where it's like, okay, you step on the gas full throttle, and then oh crap, you see a cop up ahead, and so some of you may not really know where to get started with your SOLIDWORKS certification journey. So with that said, we have different levels of certification. And anyone know the first level of certification for SOLIDWORKS? The associate, yeah. So we have 3 levels of certification. And the first level being the associate level, which is basically the fundamentals of SOLIDWORKS. It covers everything from part design, drafting, and assembly design. And it really proves, your skill level at using the software at the fundamental level. If you completed any type of essentials training or gone through the tutorials, this is a certification to help benchmark that, hey, I know what I'm doing. It's like, if you're operating a $20,000 like CNC machine, your employer really doesn't, trust anyone to use that. You can do some heavy damage with it. So being certified really will only help you in your career. And the next level is we call the CSWP, Certified SOLIDWORKS Professional. And it's, the next level from the associate. And with the CSWP, you really, want to, it tests you on your ability to really, work fast. It's targeted for users who have mastered the fundamentals. So, you want to really streamline your processes, with tips and tricks that Brad and Adam's going to share with you today on configurations, on your ability to design for change, and working in assembly top down. And then the next level of certification, which everyone really strives to achieve, is the expert level. Do we have any experts in the room here today? These two? Stuart. So for the seasoned, professionals here in the room, or, if you've worked with SOLIDWORKS for a while, this is something that everyone strives to achieve. And some may wonder, how do I become an expert? What do I have to do to get there? And the answer is for CAD design, definitely I encourage everyone to first take the CSWA, the associate level certification, and then next go after the professional, the CSWP. The CSWP is a prerequisite in addition to 4 of the 5 following certifications to qualify for the expert level exam, which we call the CSWE. Sheet metal, drawing tools, weldments, surfacing, and mold making, all 5 of those qualify. You only need 4. And my recommendation is, if you don't have mold making experience, stay away from that exam. That was one exam that I helped to update, and it really focuses on mold making experience, leverages not only SOLIDWORKS, but your industry knowledge to solve those challenges. So if you don't have that experience, then definitely the other 4 will help. And then we have another expert level certification for simulation. You can obtain the simulation expert by becoming a CSWP and taking the simulation associate and simulation professional. And that will qualify you for the simulation expert exam. Now, for these expert certifications, that's one voucher we do not discount and give away for free. But one little tip is we do offer a free retake. I'm going to say that again. We do offer a free retake So if you happen to fail, email us at certification@solidworks.com, and we'll be happy to help you with the free retake. Granted, there is, I believe, a 90-day waiting period between retakes, but that's one exam for our elite, that we see our customers, they spend a lot of time and money to get to that level. So we want to help you as best as we can, but not essentially just give it to you. All right, so we got some maintenance that we did this year in 2024 within our certification team. And really, we consolidated several of our exams, as well as we did some name changes. And I'm going to go over that really quick. So for those of you who are not aware, we have SolidWorks desktop, and then we also had SolidWorks on the platform, which you could use the SolidWorks connected app from the platform. And we offered 2 certifications. This one being the CSWA. We had a 3D Experience SolidWorks Associate, and we also had the SolidWorks desktop version, which everyone well knows as the CSWA. Well, seeing how the 2 have now become the same, we have consolidated these 2 certifications to be one exam, one certification that be taken on any flavor of SolidWorks, which if you're using 3D Experience SolidWorks on the platform or SolidWorks desktop, you can take our CSWA exam and obtain that certification. Likewise, for the CSWP, those 2 have been consolidated. So the 3D Experience SolidWorks certification, which was equivalent to the CSWP, has now been consolidated, which means more challenges, more data sets for you to be able to take. And as far as name changes, a lot of our certifications that were on the platform have been renamed as of this month, June 2024. So for 3D Experience, like 3D Swimmer, 3D Creator, 3D Sculptor, we've changed those names down to the brand. So now we have SolidWorks 3D Creator, SolidWorks 3D Sculptor. For NC Shop Floor Programmer, it's Delmia. For a Lean Team Player, Delmia. And for those platform-specific certifications, we pretty much changed them down to the brand name instead of the old name, which we had used 3D Experience. And for our desktop certifications, the only name change here that we made was to the CSWA, the CSWP, and the CSWE, which used to be called Mechanical Design, and now it's called CAD Design. So your CSWA, you can get it in as a CAD Design for that certification. Now, I'm just going to poll everyone, and those of you online, you can join in as well. But for the top 5 most favorite certifications, what do you think number 1 in the world is as far as certified users? Which certification do you think is top 5 number 1?
Sheet metal.
Sheet metal?
Associate.
The CSWA? It's got a motorcycle. Let's see. So number 1 is the associate. Yeah, we just passed 500,000 certified users at for the CSWA associate level certification. That's the number 1 most taken exam. What about number 2?
CSWP.
CSWP. Yeah, number 2 is the CSWP at 120 certified users around the world. And how about number 3?
Simulation was the CSWA.
The simulation. Anyone else?
I'd say
ESWB,
Expert.
mechanical drawing.
Sheet metal.
Mechanical drawing tools. CSW
If you're on
drawing
chat,
tools.
yes, sheet metal is number 3 at 27,000 certified users around the world who have been certified in sheet metal.
As far as I made it, yes, by the way.
Yeah.
I ruined it.
And number 4, drawing tools.
Drawing tools.
Yes, you are right.
25,000
25,000 certified users
Wow.
with the drawing tools as number 4. And number 5, weldments. Yeah. I'm going to give you a hint. It's an associate level certification.
CSWA simulation.
Simulation. Oh, additive manufacturing is correct. Yeah.
On the chat,
Uh,
has nailed all of them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome. 22,000 certified additive manufacturing users around the world. And so with that, I encourage you to continue your certification journey with us. And at the end of the presentation, those of you online, there'll be a QR code where you can redeem for a free certification. You'll fill out a little survey, and we'll also have a special gift card we'll be sending out, compliments of HP Hewlett Packard, who donated the gift card for that, and for those of you in the room here today as well. And with that, I just want to thank y'all for having me here today. And I can be contacted, that's our generic email, certification@solidworks.com. If you are going for your CSWE and you fail it, please don't hesitate. Give us a shout at our email, and we'll be happy to help you with the retake for that specific certification.
And for those in Altec, if you go for the CSWE, don't worry, Altec's going to take care of that. If you pass it, I have it on good word that you could get reimbursed for it. Okay, I know it's $150 certification, but you could get reimbursed for it if you don't pass it, and that's okay, because if you don't, Daniel said he's going to hook you up if you fail it to get that next one. So eventually, if you pass it, you're going to get reimbursed, right? So keep that in mind for anybody with Altec.
So, am I still on?
You are.
Okay. If you come to our website, 3dexperience.virtualtester.com, you can actually see who's certified in your area. We just came yesterday from Nashville, Tennessee, and they had 28 certified users as experts. So 28 experts in the state of Tennessee. And I see Adam down here as one of them. So I'm just curious, in Kentucky, how many certified SolidWorks experts we have here in Kentucky. And so I'll just change the state up here. And looks like we have 5. Oh, there's Stuart right there. So thank you guys for having me. Next, we're going to have Adam present to you on what's been in the making for the past 5 years. He's been telling everybody that, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna present on this, and he's got a special presentation for y'all on the selection in SolidWorks and how best to use that and some tips and tricks. So let me get a big hand for Adam.
All right, guys, just trying to orchestrate some camera, make sure everybody could see what was going on there. You can see me on there. We're doing good. All right, gotta share our screens with 2 platforms, so give me just 1 minute. Okay. So here we go. This is, as Daniel was saying, a presentation I've been promising. I have a lot of tips and tricks presentations and some other presentations that I do where I talk a little bit about selection tool, a couple things here and there. And I've always said, man, you could do a full-blown presentation on just the selection tool. And we're going to do that today. But you could go even deeper than what I'm doing today, just to give you a heads up. So we're going to start with the basics. So some of the stuff you probably already know, maybe it's a refresher for you, and then we're going to get deeper into that. So let's go ahead and start. This presentation is entitled Selection Tool, Natural Selection of the Selection. All right, a little bit about myself. This is for you guys. I think maybe some of you guys have seen me present before, but also for those out in Zoom land. I'm a project designer, product engineering department of Altec Industries. So I'm in the body plant for you guys here at Altec. You probably understand that maybe as well. But we do bucket trucks, digger derricks, elevators, units, tree care, dump bodies. I mean, you name it, we do it, right? Anything for the utility companies. I also teach as an adjunct in the applied engineering department. I do about 3 classes a semester at the Mainland Community College. I've been doing that and a lot of this other stuff just about as long as I've been with Altec. Kind of turned my gears there, I guess. Along with that, leading the Western North Carolina Asheville SolidWorks user group. That's kind of where I got my start in the user groups and really gained some momentum and some enthusiasm and passion for what we're doing here today. That led into right before COVID becoming a committee member on the SWUG network for the Southeast region. So that's pretty much Mississippi, Tennessee, all the way through the Caribbean, as well as managing all these Altec SWUGs too. I'm a SolidWorks champion. I know some people in Altec are SolidWorks champions as well. It's a really cool venture to go down and be a part of and really have more enthusiasm, maybe even outside of a SWUG group about SolidWorks and working together and collaborating with other people. Matt Clegg runs that. If you have any questions or something you maybe want to do, check it out. Go to Google, type in SolidWorks champion. There are some prerequisites for that, CSWP, attending world, that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. But we're always looking for people, but we are trying to keep that number low so we're not, diluting the champion program either. Along with that, something Daniel talked about there just a minute ago, certifications. I am a SolidWorks certified expert. Took a little while to do it. I kind of did that whole start and stop, slow down. I seen a cop coming, more or less. I seen a couple big jobs coming through the Altec pipeline. It slowed me down a little bit. And then my boss said, hey, putting this on your review. Hopefully you'll have it by the end of the year. And of course, when he did that, I'm the type of person that I just don't let that go very long. I've got to get it done then, right? So I just went ahead and pushed it and got it done. So what are some key takeaways with this? The first one's going to be just the basics of selection, kind of what I already talked about. So we're going to kind of build on that foundation. And then some of the selection tool options, as well as the power behind the selection tools, things you can do there. All right, let's go ahead and start with the first basics, right? So if you draw a box from left to right, it's going to select what? Everything inside the box and inside the box only, right? So we see that there. Now, if we do it from right to left, it's going to select everything in the box and what the lines cross over. So hence what you see here. In conjunction with that, you also have the lasso tool, which is kind of the same, but it helps you kind of get down and find detail, maybe what you want if you don't need a full-on box, right? And keep these in mind because we'll talk about something else that plays into this too. With the lasso, left to right is going to do the same thing, right? It's going to select anything inside that lasso. Same thing with the right to left. It's going to select anything inside the lasso and what it crosses. The thing to keep in mind with the lasso tool is it's not just left to right or just right to left. It's really the more dominant way that you keep going with that lasso. So let's say you start left to right, but then you start coming back a lot more to the left. It's going to change its mind and be the other way. And you can tell that by the color between the blue and the green when you're doing it, right? So just make sure if you want something specific, if you want only what's in the lasso, that you're going more left to right than you are right to left when you're drawing that. Okay. All right, so how do we get to some of these other selection tools that we're seeing here? And this is just your normal right-click flyout menu, right? It also has it up in your file tab or your file bar at the top. You can see it there as well. But if you just click the right mouse button, it'll come up right here. And we're going to talk about a few things here. You can see that right there, right off the bat, the first thing is going to be your rectangle selection box, right? The second one's going to be your lasso. And then if we go a little bit further, we have selection filters. Now, is selection filters important? By all means, it really is. A lot of people actually claim that if you have selection filters turned on just by hitting F5, that you're probably a power user. Just because, I'll give you an example. Last night, I was doing an illustration of how to use Sketch Expert, and I was trying to create a contradictory relationship with a line and a relationship, and it didn't. The zoom on this computer that HP's hooked us up with for this road show, it was, I guess the resolution was a little bit different than what I'm used to, and I couldn't see. I didn't have my reading glasses out there in my pocket, and so I couldn't select the midpoint. I was like, well, I'm tired of trying to find this midpoint. I selected midpoint on the filter tool, and I went right to the line, and it automatically selects the midpoint because it doesn't select anything but a midpoint, right? And so that's really important that you can do it on a right click and find it there, but just know that the F5 button is also there and available for you as well. And there, of course, if you do the F5 button, pulls that toolbar. I keep it at the bottom of my viewing window or the bottom of my graphics area, just above my status bar. Select other. This is one that I spoke about yesterday. So if you were part of the meeting yesterday online, or maybe you were here and you were online, you remember saying there was something that I wanted to challenge SolidWorks with this, and I'll show you here in a minute what I'm talking about, because I'll relate it to the tab when you hide things and Shift Tab to bring them back, if anybody recalls that as a tip and trick, or Alt when you're in a mate and you hide those faces, and Shift Alt to bring those faces back. What it does is it hides the part or the face, depending on what you're doing, from front to back. And then when you unhide it, using the Shift Alt or Shift Tab, it brings it back from back to front. Makes sense. It's logical, right? That way you're kind of seeing what's going on. Here, it does not do that. It just does what it wants to do, kind of. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. We'll go in here.
Deepak says in the chat that it is one of his favorites.
Yeah, select other. Yeah, it's great. It's a great tool. Let's get SolidWorks up here. Where you at, SolidWorks? You didn't close on me in the background, did you? No, there it is. Okay. Okay, so we're going to come in here, and there's a couple of ways of doing a select other. You can do a select other when you're in the middle of a mate and right click, and then you can get the select other and have a group of stuff you can go down through and try and pick. But you can also do it from the get-go just by hovering over wherever you need to be and just do a select other. Sorry, not highlighting. You don't want to select a part. You want to hit select other and then come in. And when you do that, what you're going to do is click the right mouse button. And as you click that right mouse button, it starts hiding things. So it hid that first face. Now it's going to hide the next face. If I do it again, it'll hide another face, and it starts hiding those, right? Now I can come back and hit Shift and do it. This is where I want to challenge SolidWorks right here. I'm glad I got a SolidWorks guy in the room. This is where I want to challenge SolidWorks, because you notice what it did. It just brought back that first face. If I go and hide it again, everything's still hidden. What if I accidentally hid something in that select other and I want to bring it back? Well, I can't unless I just completely hit escape and try and do it again. Right. So select other, that's a powerful tool. You can get behind things, see things, select them, get ready to mate things. Of course, you have, you know, some other tools like make transparent on your first selection tool within mates. That's a pretty cool, useful tool as well. But this is just all this stuff is just more tools to add to your knowledge base to help you achieve things in certain situations, right? All right. And of course, this is the width mating, what I was mentioning again. If you do the selection tool when you're trying to mate something, let's say we grab, I don't know, this by, you know, holding down control and dragging, right? And then we say we want to mate it. We can right click here and do a select other, And then we get a list of stuff if there's a lot of stuff behind it that we can flag. So that's also a useful tool as well. Use Alt with Shift Alt. This is something I spoke of yesterday as well when you're trying to mate stuff. So let's say we go into mating and we use the Alt key. We can also hide faces, right? Just like the Tab key, and then Shift Alt to bring those back. That's what I was mentioning before. It hides them from front to back and brings them back to front. All right, the magnifying glass. So this is fun. Anybody use the magnifying glass? Anybody know the hotkey for the magnifying glass? H, almost.
G.
It says G,
Next
okay.
one over. Yep, Deepak's got it. It's G, right? So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna look at it. Now you don't have to know the hotkey because it's right here on your selection tool when you right click. So we could say there's the magnifying glass. And the cool thing about magnifying glass, you could be way out and zoom way into something without having to actually zoom in yourself. Kind of weigh the options of whether this is super beneficial or not, but if you like it, use it, right? If it makes you more efficient, use it. Not everybody's going to do the same thing in SolidWorks as the other person next to them, and that's what's great about SolidWorks. It gives you those opportunities to do different things. Again, the G key does bring that up too. And also, once you have that up, here's another tip. Let me zoom this out a little bit more. You can see it's able to zoom in and out just by rolling that wheel. But if you hit Alt, look what it does there. Wherever you have that held, it'll actually do like a partial section and then allow you to zoom in that area. And then if you just hit escape, it comes right back. Pretty cool. Okay. Jump back. And of course, there's that G key we spoke of. There's the magnifying glass with the Alt. Use the Alt with the magnifying glass to get kind of a partial section. Now we're going to look at select tangent. I'm kind of avoiding a couple other things because I want to show those here in a minute for some ooh and ahs because a lot of people like that one I'm going to show in a minute. But select tangent, that's a nice one too. You could do this in a few instances, but we'll just show it in a part for now. I should have done this before the program. Let's go ahead and do one more. Okay. So let's say you're looking for a face and you need all the faces. Maybe you're doing a convert entities. I don't know. Maybe you're trying to figure out what needs to be cut through something else or extruded through something else. And so you want to do a convert entities, but you need all of that around there. Just select tangent and it'll select all the way around. Sorry, I picked the wrong face. It'll select all around that particular instance. You also have select loop, which is very similar. So that's pretty powerful thing. You can do it in sketches and stuff too. There's your select loop. Select loop's a little bit different though. So let's go back to the floor and look at that. And let's say I need this whole flange, or maybe I need this flange, right? I can select loop. I can get this to come up right. Let's pull it up. I'm getting some laggy from sharing from two different. There we go. Well, am I blind or am I not seeing select loop on there?
You need to
Okay.
select
Select
H.
loop should be right here. And I can go back to my slide and show you exactly what it's doing. Try one more part. Select loop is not on here. And I am using a different version of SolidWorks too. So, but with what we're normally running in SolidWorks, select loop is going to allow you to select a whole face or a region. And notice it has an arrow because that arrow is saying, hey, you could be selecting the loop going up or the select loop going down or one side to the other. So it lets you help fine tune that loop you're actually wanting to select.
So loop,
Is
sorry,
it the
loop
edge?
is for the
Is that what I
edges.
didn't do? Okay. Let's try that. I think I was selecting the face. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So notice it's going to select the interior or it'll flip down and select that area based on the edge you select. So if I went here, of course it's going to go there, or select this outer edge, and the same as what you see in my image is coming down or that upper loop. Thank you, Deepak. I knew I wasn't holding my tongue right. Okay, so select midpoint. This is pretty good. I use this from time to time when I'm not using the filters. It's another opportunity or option to get a midpoint, because midpoints sometimes for some reason can be elusive in SolidWorks. Has anybody ever ran into where you're trying to select a midpoint and you just can't get it? Yeah, I've hit that milestone too, and that's where filters can really come in handy, or just right click and select midpoint. All right. Of course, the filter tool is going to help you as well. And then selecting connected faces. Now this one's pretty interesting. I used this and kind of showed it off a little bit. It's one of my times I showed something off in the selection tool and then said, hey, I'm going to do a presentation on this at one day, right? But let's say you have a lot of connected faces. Maybe I find it more useful probably in a surface model than I do anywhere else, especially maybe when I'm trying to change appearances or copy and paste appearances or something of that nature. Because in the illustration that I did for IronSWUG last year, I had a motorcycle fairing that I had modeled in X-shape on the platform, right? Brought it into SolidWorks, did some customization in SolidWorks, was doing some appearance stuff in SolidWorks before we slapped it on the bike, and then did some other stuff with it. It's Motorcycle Modeling Mayhem. Find it on the YouTube channel from last year. It's a pretty cool presentation. But what it did is it allowed me to select a bunch of different faces when I did that without having to go and say 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I can just come in here and select faces. And then it gives me the opportunity to tell me what kind of faces I actually want to select, almost like the Field Expert does. Okay. That's a useful tool, depending on what you're doing. Again, all this stuff is kind of depending on what you're doing. Select suppressed and hidden items. Anybody ever have suppressed or hidden items in your tree? Maybe even wondering where they went at some point, or maybe you just need to get them all and delete them, right? Yeah, I'll show you another way to kind of quickly delete that stuff here in a minute too. But maybe you just want to select them, maybe you want to unsuppress them, or you want to unhide them all at once. Let's go into SolidWorks and look at that with this floor. And then I will actually just come down through here and randomly hide some stuff, right? Or suppress, either one. So I hit a lot of that floor structure. And yes, the meeting is being recorded. I understand that. Okay, Teams is going to get in my way. I love when Teams does this. Anybody? I have to move this down. So in that selection tool, and I probably could have just done it with my right flyout, right? Is I can select all hidden components, and it's going to select them in my feature tree for me. So then I can come back and unhide them all at once, or whatever I want to do, right? Now that was pretty simple. I just had a block of them. I could have done that pretty simple. What if they're littered through the feature tree? Right? Anybody have big feature trees they deal with? Yeah. Anybody ever try and find certain things in the feature tree and it's pretty cumbersome? Well, wouldn't you know, there's a selection tool to help you find them all. And the same thing with select suppressed. I'm not going to do that because it's basically the same thing, right? If it's suppressed, you right click or go up to the selection tool at the top that you guys can see, but I can't because Teams is blocking it for me. And then select suppressed or hidden. There's your select suppressed, and you can see this is a good illustration of those being kind of scattered out and trying to find those. And select them for whatever reason, whether it's deleting them, maintenance of your feature tree, whatever you're doing there. Maybe you just need to grab them and throw them in a folder that says these are hidden, right? Who knows? Whatever you want to do there. Okay, we're going to do inverted select next, and this is a pretty cool tool as well because maybe you have a lot of stuff in your model and you need a lot of it, but maybe a couple parts. Maybe you need everything but this guy and this guy. And so you come in. I really wish I can get to my tool up here. Unpin.
No, you just pinned it. It should come back up the way.
Sorry guys, I'm having Teams issues with Teams covering up my bar. Just like that and that. Huh. They don't let you move it either. Let's do this. Yeah, if anybody's shared with Teams lately, they'll notice that that comes up because anytime I try to remote to somebody's screen, it ends up knocking you out of control. All right, so let's do this and this. And they go here.
Like anything SolidWorks, it doesn't want to work when you do it.
Select.
Invert selection, it was there.
You
Selection
see it?
tool.
I'm blind. I don't have my
Selection tool. Up.
there it goes. Okay, invert select. All right, there you go. So it just basically selects everything that you didn't have selected when you do that. So it helps, like if you have, like, again, a big model, you want to select a bunch of stuff. Maybe you need to hide it. Maybe you need to move it. Maybe you need to delete it, whatever. Use that invert select to select anything that you don't have. Okay. Previous select. This is one that I was kind of saving for a little bit because this is one of those ooh and ah ones that a lot of people tend to like. I'm going to go to this model for this one. Anybody ever been in the middle of trying to select a bunch of edges to create a fillet or a chamfer on something? Or maybe a sketch or whatever, and then all of a sudden you accidentally click off of it and those 50 selections that you just made are gone, and you're like ready to throw your mouse across the cube, right? And you're like, dang it, I got to reselect all 50 of these items again. Let's kind of look at that. So I select this face, and maybe I select this face, and maybe this edge, and then oh crap, I accidentally deselected those. Or did I? I can right click and do previous select and bring all those selections right back and continue where I left off. You can do that in parts. You can do that in sketches. So that is a very useful tool anywhere you go. I really like that one. Save selection. This is a good one too. I wish it would work a little different than what it does, and I'm going to kind of drop this on you and explain what it does, and then I'll let you know exactly what I think it probably should do. So this is another maybe adder for SolidWorks to look at in the future as well. There are times in our job and in our life that we have to select things multiple times, and we don't want to do that every time and take up that resource. So maybe I need to select this, 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 and I can come in here and right click, save selection, create a new selection, right? And I click off of it, that's fine. If I need it right away, of course, I can do previous select, right? But I can come up here and it actually creates a folder of selection sets, right? And then when I click that, it re-clicks that anytime I need that again in the future. So if it's something that I'm quite oftenly working on and a selection set that I really need quite often, I'll save that selection set. And furthermore, I can rename it to Adams Selection.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Mind blown.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to do even more so that you can add stuff to the selection tools, the selection set, by simply clicking maybe another face, going back to that selection, maybe I missed that, I'll just add it there. And once it's checked, it'll give you a little check and let you know it's been added, because if you go here and right click and look at those save selections, see how it's checked for that one? Well, maybe if I click this one and look at it, it's not checked. That's telling me that that is part of the selection tool by it being checked if I look at that. Right. And then I can go in and I can expand this out and look at it and delete those. So maybe really I didn't need, what was this face? Maybe that wasn't the face I was looking for. I was just, sorry. Don't do that. When you hit delete, it actually deletes the component and causes a bunch of issues in your feature tree. You need to right click and tell it to remove from the selection set. Right? So now when I select that, okay, now it's all my top floor places. Here's the caveat. When you do this, it's only going to work for faces and edges, not parts. That would be the adder I would think SolidWorks would want to put in there, because what if I want this to be a set selection of parts, not just faces or edges? So maybe I can toggle those on and off. I know there's display states for that, right? And we can use that too. But this is right here in front of me on my feature tree. Why not allow me to have the option of selecting parts? Because I can come in here and try and select parts all day and do the same thing. And it's not available for me to do that.
Hint, 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 SolidWorks.
Hint, hint, SolidWorks. And then if I don't want it, of course, I can delete the selection set. But again, not that way, not with the delete. You have to right click and remove the selection set. Okay. All right. Select over geometry. This one's nice. It's kind of like the tool that I talked about yesterday. Let's look at it. Without select over geometry, if you try to select something over top of geometry, especially if you've got a large model, large part, right, that you're trying to do something on, and you're zoomed in there, the last thing you want to do is zoom out to see some kind of graphics area in the background so you can select, right? Because if you select and the geometry is in front of you, it's going to give you a couple of different errors. This is just one of them, right? And so if I show you that one error, and I've seen other errors too, so we'll see what we get this time. If I go to do this, and I try to, sorry. If I go to try and select this, see what it's trying to do is trying to move the part, and it's going to give me an error and tell me, no, you can't do that typically. It's actually showing an error on the selection tool itself, saying I can't do it. And then, of course, it'll give that same error that I mentioned in the slide. So if you want to select over geometry, there's actually a function for that. And you have to go to a couple of places you can do it at. You can press a hotkey for it. The hotkey is the T key, right? T is in Tom. Do what?
Deepak got that immediately.
Did he?
Yes.
T key, awesome. Deepak. Deepak's an awesome dude. If you ever look at the old blog posts and the help stuff, Deepak's always in there helping people out. He's a cool dude. The other one is to go to Tools and then go to Select over Geometry, if I can read. You see it? Where am I at? I really should pull my glasses out right here. There we go. Select over geometry. And then when I go to actually select, it allows me to do so left to right or right to left, depending on what I want to do, or even with the lasso. The bonus tip is one that I gave up last night, and we'll go ahead and look at this because who uses mouse gestures? Hopefully everybody, or at least the S key. Mouse gestures or S key, that's great. What if you're into a big model and you're looking for that mouse gesture? Because what does mouse gestures and S key do for us? They bring those commands to our mouse and reduce mouse miles, help us become more efficient. If you're going to go on to the CSWP and especially the E and the advanced, you really need to be using S key and mouse gestures because it's really going to speed up your efficiency and your time. And so those mouse gestures, of course, bring those commands here, but if you were over a part, they don't tend to work unless you hold down the Alt key. That allows you to be completely zoomed into a model and not look for a blue space over here to try and use those mouse gestures. You can use them on your part, holding down the Alt key. Power select. This is a pretty useful tool as well. We'll go and do it through the selection drop down probably, if I can get to it. So power select allows you to almost like you're filtering your features in a way, if that makes sense. And select those features and then do a number of things with them, whether you want to suppress them, hide them, some other stuff there too. Let's see. And of course, with this example, what I showed here is that I selected those cutouts. Maybe it's for defeaturing. Maybe you're trying to defeature something to speed it up, so that way you're not taking the hit on the graphics triangles every time you use it in a model, and so you create a simplified version. So this could help you create those simplified versions. So power select. You can also get to it through tools, power select as well. And you can say what kind of feature. You can say feature type. You can use all these different things like angle. Maybe you want to do it by face colors. Maybe you know that your aluminum's yellow, right? And you can do it by that. Or your stainless is magenta or whatever. Maybe you're just looking for features. Maybe you're looking for cuts. We're going to look for cuts this time just to make it nice and easy on us. And notice it selects anything that has an extruded cut, right? I could change that. I could change that to a surface. Let me do a new search here. I could change that to reference geometry. I can look at sheet metal type stuff. There's a lot of things I can do, and there's a plethora of them even inside of these other ones, right? So I can change, and I can do multiples. I can say, if it's this, I also want this selected too. Maybe I want a cut that's got a face that's red, right? So I can do that. I can add multiple scenarios in here. If we come back in here and we're looking at this, we just did that, we select it. It gives us these. We can take these off, turn them off and on if we don't want them. But once we say okay, and come out of this, hit close, right? Then we have free reign to do whatever we want with these, whether that's to suppress them or hide them. In this case, we're talking about maybe defeaturing, so that way we can make this model a little quicker. You can do what you want there. All right. Maybe make a new display state for that setup, or break it like I just did. Who knows the most awesome way to undo anything up to the last save point? I bet Deepak's going to answer this one. Up to the last save point or the last rebuild. The master undo button. I am blind as a bat today. Does it not come with SolidWorks connected? So in your SolidWorks, sorry guys, we're using SolidWorks connected from the platform. There's a reload button here in your file, and that will actually revert everything back to the last save point. So that way you can go in and mess up whatever you want to mess up, and then know you have that master undo button.
Reload from server, but not
That's probably because it's connected, so it's probably trying to pull it from the server. Don't save. Anybody know what Control R does? Opens that little window to open your recent stuff you've opened. And I think that goes up to like 100 R. Yeah, I think that goes up to like 100, 150. It used to only be a few, but they've updated that. I think 2022. Somebody correct me if they know the correct year for that change. Maybe in 2020. All right. Select mated to, right? I know when you're working on large assemblies, sometimes you have to go into SolidWorks and select, maybe this is my old work habit maybe, and I select the part, then I go to my properties manager tab, and then I look at all this here. Another thing that's been new since breadcrumbs is it also comes up and tells you all the mates that it has there. And if you use the D key, it brings it to your mouse cursor to be able to see those too, whether it's of that or maybe there's a subassembly underneath that before it got to the part and so on. But if you want to visually see all that without having to say click it and then go to your property manager or breadcrumbs and try and look at it this way, you can right click and get to this selection bar or come up to the top. And look at select mated to. And it's going to show you and select everything that has a relationship to that it's mated to. So that maybe gives you some insight. If I do this, if I break this, if I replace it and it doesn't work, what are my potential, what's my potential devastation, my collateral damage, right? And then this is another favorite of mine. I actually showed this last night as a tip and trick for a game we did last night, and it's select identical components. Anybody in here use weld nuts or hardware of some sort, or maybe fasteners, maybe some, I don't know, valve block, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Or a component on a valve block, and you've got 50 of them in your model, and it's littered through your tree. And maybe you want to try and put all those in a folder because that's a great tool is to organize your feature tree and folders and stuff, right? Well, it'd be kind of cumbersome to go down through, oh, there is one, there's one, there's one, and try and click them all. When I can come in here and do select identical component, and then maybe I want all the weld nuts, and then it selects them all for me. Pretty nice. Especially when you got 50 of the same component just littered through the tree. And maybe you want to hide them, maybe you want to suppress them, maybe you want to throw them in a folder and maintain your feature tree.
Delete them and make a pattern. So you don't have to
Delete
skip
them and make a pattern. There you go. That's a good one too. Right. Here's one that I want to bring up for discussion. For those online and in here, I've used this several times, but I don't use it because I don't know that I really feel like it works. Maybe I'm not using it right. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But this is select internal components. Does it work? Yes or no? So we're going to look at that real quick, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing and what I'm seeing. And maybe it's because faces are touching, so they don't consider them external components. I don't know. So let's go in here. I'm going to look at this box that we have right here. And I'm going to say select internal components. And what would you guys think that should do? Anything internal to the outside shell, you'd think it would select, right? Well, I've got plywood. I've got some other stuff in here. When I go select internal components, the only thing it does is the gas shocks. And sometimes it won't even do the actual gas shocks. It'll expand the gas shocks out and only grab the components of the gas shocks. So I don't know. If anybody's got some recommendations, I wanted to throw that one out here because this is one that I've never really been able to get to work the way I envisioned or thought it should work. And I've looked, I've researched, I've looked at, even the SOLIDWORKS help menus are not really helpful. They don't really tell you anything about the internal selection at all, even in the help file. So I'll leave that one open for discussion. Does it work or does it not? In my opinion, I don't think it really works. I think it's a tool that's kind of there for maybe it does and it doesn't. And maybe that's why SOLIDWORKS doesn't really list it in the help files either. All right. This one's pretty cool. So this is going to be kind of similar to what we did with the identical components, but maybe it's not just the nuts. Maybe it's any hardware feature or whatever. And so we'll jump over into this box again.
Some people said it. Sometimes it does work. Deepak says he doesn't use it. Stephanie says it misses parts. So.
Okay. So yeah, so there's a mixed feeling about it as well in the Zoom. So we're going to do select component size by component size. And then we're going to say anything that is under, say, 29% of the model. And then we'll hit this button. This is going to update for us, and it's going to select anything that is under 29% of the size of what's in the model, right? Maybe I need to make it smaller. Maybe I need to go to 4%. Maybe I'm just looking for stuff that small. Maybe I'm trying to isolate different types of hardware to get them out of my model or suppress them or delete them. Maybe I don't want to show that. Maybe it's a a parts,
First page.
parts page. And I don't need to show something in there that's a certain size. That'll help me click it. Now notice I was having to spin this little slider to get to different points, and I could type in there. I could say 10, right? I can do that. I don't have to use the slider. But notice every time I change that, I have to hit this to update it, or I can click dynamic select, and as I move this, now it is a little more intensive on your memory, so if you're using something big, be mindful of that. Because as you select it, it tries to move around for you. It'll automatically do it on the fly as you change those numbers, or even use your counter up and down here. Okay. Select by view is a pretty cool tool as well. Maybe it's I don't know, maybe you're doing something for a drawing, a print, right? In this instance, maybe we're looking for this box, and maybe in the print, we want to show without lids so they can see in the box. And so we're going to put a note on our print, you know, hey, this is view shown without lid for clarity, or whatever you're going to put on there, right? Whatever your stipulations say at your company. And I don't want to deal with going into the print. I don't want to have to right click on all these different components and hide those components. And so I can do select by view, and I can select current view. And of course, that's going to give me anything in the current view. And if I spin it around, it won't have anything on that back side, right? Or because I can change the view. Maybe there's a certain view that I need that to be, and I can rotate it and manipulate it how I want and get the view the way I want it, and then do that. Maybe that's what you're after. Or maybe you just need the top. Maybe you got to hide all that stuff so you can see in it, and you hide it and create a display state with that name. Why do we not use configurations, Brad?
Not everybody knows how to do it.
Not everybody knows how to do it, and they're more efficiently, and they're more resource intensive. Display states is going to be the win for you with stuff like this, with hide and doing those things. It'll help you have a faster model. You can go just to the right. You can select multiple, of course, too. Deselect that. Maybe we just want it just to the right. That's going to select everything that can be seen from that right. Okay. Toolbox, this is more for those guys out in Zoom world. We don't use this in Altec. Just too much complications with stuff going in and out of our PLM system. But there is a selection tool for Toolbox. You can select that, and it will select all your Toolbox items and let you see those. This advanced select is going to be pretty cool. So I'm going to show you this, and this can apply to a lot of different things and carry over between different models, and you can import and export those things. So let's look at this. I'm going to go advanced select. And we're going to do, what did I do in this example here? I did file type. And I did condition. What do equal to?
Yep.
And then I'm going to do sheet metal. And this is pretty cool because this gives you some flexibility, almost like that power select did, but it gives you some more flexibility because it gives you the if this or this and this, that you can put some combinations and some more logic into what it's selecting. And so the next one, we're going to say document name. And we're going to say contains channel. All right. Now we're going to say apply. And notice anything, well, let's see. Yes, that's right. So anything that is sheet metal and contains, this is or, so that's my problem here. I've got or. So I want to change that to and then apply it. And now anything that is inside of this model that is considered sheet metal and has a document name of channel, right? You got to be pretty specific. It's one of those things that it's looking for those characters and stuff too. Then you can kind of write this out to the way you want it to select certain things. You can also save these and say, okay, this is my sheet metal channel. and hit save. Then I can manage that. And I can toggle it on and off. Once I select it over here, if I had multiples, I could put an order in which it's doing it. And so I can move things up and down in this tree. And then I can also, now as long as you save this, it's going to go across your other models, right? What it's not going to do is when you have a SolidWorks update or a new SolidWorks install, it's going to delete, right? Just like your hotkeys and your mouse gestures. What do you do with those? We save them out, right? Using the our copy wizard setting, right? Save those out and then bring them back in. Well, this is kind of the same way. Once you have it, you can go in here and you can export this search and then re-import it later. So you have it as a backup as well. So if you come across something that you're going to search quite often and you could use it across multiple models and maybe it's something you're going to live by, this is a pretty cool tool. And it's very, very, very powerful. There's a lot of logic you can write into this selection. All right, volume select. I showed this, I think last year I brought this out during the modeling maintenance mayhem, motorcycle modeling mayhem. And how you can open certain models and do it very efficiently without taking that hit. And I actually showed this last night because it was part of the tips and tricks that I did. But let's go in here and open something that is fairly large. It could take us a little bit of time. Let's go PowerPoints. Let's go envelopes. Let's open this body.
Good. You're fine.
Anybody ever open a model and it take a few minutes to open and you know every time you open that model, you might as well just go get a drink or use the bathroom? Yeah, same here. I've had those experiences. Anybody know within this list what they see they can do to open it really, really quick? Huh? Large assembly save. Settings, that is in there. That's in your system options under your large assembly stuff. You can set some stuff there. So that's a good option, but that's one we can go a little quicker with.
Yeah, it says large design review.
Large design review, LDR, right? And so that's fully resolved versus LDR. Here at Altec, we set that currently with the new upgrade this year to be auto. So you're actually seeing a lot of stuff come up in lightweight now. If you're wondering about that, you see it more in the PLM side, not as much in the feature tree where it's kind of a little more discreet. And that's why you don't see lightweight here, is for that same reason. And so if we hit LDR and we go open, this model would normally take a couple of minutes to open, but we'll see how quick it opens now. Now it is taking just an extra second because it's going to display this warning. If you don't want to see this warning every time you turn it off, I keep it on for demonstration purposes, but this tells you what you can and can't do with LDR. It says, hey, you can go in here, you can make some measurements, you can hide and show some components, but you can't do a lot of these other things down here at the bottom, right? You're limited to what this is. Now, what's good is the future version of SolidWorks that they told us a little bit of snippets about at World this year. You're actually going to be able to create extrude cuts and stuff within LDR. So that's pretty big because watch when I hit OK, how quick this model opens up. It's done. It's open, right? That's a body with a lot of different components in it. And I know a top level celled model can be just as quick, right? But then that begs to differ. Well, that gets me where I am. I need to see these things. It works, but at the same time, I really needed to edit some stuff in here. And you're telling me in LDR, I can't edit it. Well, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to use my triad to get a right side view here. And then I'm going to use volume select. It also lives up here. I can't get to it on my side, so that's why I'm using the right click right now. And then you can use the left to right, right to left feature. Keep that in mind, right? We're going to select everything that's inside of that box. I can draw this volume out to encapsulate what I want. Maybe I didn't go up or down far enough. I can drag that up and down both ways, side to side, to encapsulate all that. Then I can say selective open, everything that's selected, open selected. It's going to give me another warning that I'm going to talk about here in just a second. As it does that, it says, hey, because you've done or used selective open, all this other hidden stuff that you didn't select is going to be hidden and it's not going to load into memory. Therefore, when you first show it, that component may have a little bit of a delay. And that's because what it's doing is those things that aren't being shown that are hidden because you didn't select them, they're not resolved. They're hidden in the background and not loaded. The minute you unhide it, it will then resolve that component and allow you to start manipulating, seeing it, and doing what you want with it. It also tells us, hey, you also, because you did this, we're going to create a new display state for you as well. Let's go ahead and do that. Now look how quick that was. I didn't need to see the whole body. I wanted to see it because I needed to know where I need to be. I opened it very quickly by doing LDR. And then now, because I selected the actual area that I want to work on, it's resolved that. It's out of LDR. It's fully resolved, and I can do whatever I want right here. Then if I go to the Configuration Manager tab, notice here's that new display state that it created for me because I used the selective open. Volume select and then selected open.
Stephanie from NYC just put a mind-blowing emoji in there.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to expand this and I'm going to show you how it works here. So if we go to the street side, we drop this down. Let's look at the shell. Maybe I needed this component to be here too. Well, all I have to do is show it. Poke the eyeball and show it, right? The minute I poke that eyeball and show it, it comes in and now it is fully resolved too. Notice it took a little bit of a delay, but that's because it's fully resolving it. It wasn't loaded into memory. It's basically offline right now until I do that and bring it online. And then I can start manipulating and working with this. It's a great way to take a large assembly, open it really quick, select a certain area that you actually need to work on, and only take the hit for that versus the whole model. All right, so I like to wrap things up to say if I was you and you was me and you was up here giving this presentation, I was sitting in your shoes, what would I probably wrote down? What are some notes I would have probably taken? And that would be that left to right and right to left, making sure I understand what that is, because we go about our daily job sometimes and do some things in certain routines and we forget certain little nuances, and that's one of them that could be. Previous select when unselected, I think that's huge. I think I've clicked a lot of edges and surfaces in my time and then accidentally clicked off, or maybe my control button decided it didn't want to control anymore, right? And then it unselects, and know that I can actually just right click and hit previously selected and it comes back. Or how about saving selections with the selection set, right? And that advanced selection and being able to save that and carry them over. Or I'm sorry, it's the selection set. Saving selection with selection set up in the tree and then changing those names and being a little more organized. Selecting identical components. I don't know who doesn't use or doesn't work in large assemblies who has multiple components of one type and needs to organize their feature tree. Use LDR and then use the volume select with selective open to really reduce that hit of large models. So I call you to action. I say, give it a try, right? This is one of the things I like to do is say, give it a try. You're not going to remember everything you've learned, but if you can just take one thing home with you, that's going to help you and make you that much more stronger. And where will you start? I used this same sayings last night because I really like these. Promise I won't show them again this trip, I don't think. But I'm a firm believer that practice doesn't make perfect. It really doesn't. It makes habit. It creates muscle memory. The more often you do something and repetition, your mind and your muscles tend to react that way. And so it's making habit. And Aristotle told us that what we repeatedly do is the excellence. We are what we repeatedly do, and excellence then is not an act, but is a habit. And I'll go ahead and open it for questions.
All right, so before we get started again with my presentations and all that jazz, I'm gonna go ahead and thank our sponsors that make all this happen. First and foremost, Altec for letting us take a week off work and change kind of the way we do our SolidWorks support job and take it on the road a little bit. The user group network all around. Dan Wagner is in the Zoom call as well. He's a big supporter of it. Z by HP. They provided us with these machines to use. I mean, these things are rocket ships. 64-bit A5000 graphics cards in them. They fly through SolidWorks and renderings and everything, and they stay cool. So it's awesome stuff. 3D Connection. everybody that attends a meeting will get a chance to win. They're giving away 5 Space Mouse Pros for this, 1 for each stop. And then at our big location or big meetup in Milwaukee, they've got an Enterprise Edition they're going to be giving away to an attendee in person. So it's going to be fun to kind of see who wins. Big shout out to our VARs, Go Engineer, GSC, Hawk Ridge, Converge, and Swift. They all pitched in to help with our event in Milwaukee. We're actually renting a room at the Harley-Davidson Museum and having a full meal catered and everything there for us. It's going to be a great evening. And then Ashley Furniture, they're going to be our final stop for the trip. They're going to be doing a lunch and learn as well for Friday. And so big, massive shout outs to everybody that made this happen. So let's get that out of the way and let's get into our presentation here. So we're going to kind of truncate this one down a little bit, I believe, just make sure we stay on time and we don't get too bogged down. I know everybody's got to get back to work and everybody's get off the Zoom calls. As with any presentation I do, please stop me during it, raise hands, ask questions. If you are in person, wait, I've got a microphone for the room. We can unmute. That way everybody else can hear the question as well. So just give me a holler and we'll go from there. And then, put the questions in the chat if you are on Zoom or Teams as well. So we're going to crack the code of configurations. Configurations are more of an advanced, or I guess intermediate to advanced topic for people. If done correctly, great time saver. If done incorrectly, causes massive headache, and to pull what's left of my hair out would be a terrible thing because there's not much left.
Yeah, start going for the beard.
No, not doing that. All right, so before we go on, my name is Brad. My government name is Brad Meador. Everybody calls me Tank. I'm a husband and dad, a project designer at Altec. I am the Star City SolidWorks user group leader, also Roanoke, Virginia. That's the name of the group. I'm also the Mid-Atlantic SWUG committee rep for the Mid-Atlantic states. I'm a SolidWorks champion, and in 2018, I got my CSWE, and been trying to spread the certification love around and get more people at Altec certified. I think we have 6 or 7 total CSWEs within Altec. I would love to see a lot more. So key takeaways for today. We're going to go pros and cons of configurations, how to create them and manage them, and some best practices. And then we're going to go over a case study that was done by one of our individuals at Altec, because it's a great shot as to what could go wrong if somebody takes it to the extreme. So I love showing live examples or examples of things where people have learned from mistakes. So first and foremost, what is a configuration? What do you think SolidWorks calls a configuration? I pull all these directly off their SolidWorks help site. So if you think you know what it is, shout it out or put it in the chat.
I'm getting votes for you to shave your beard again, actually.
No. Not going to shave the beard again. No. All right. Since somebody know what it is, from the SolidWorks help screen, SolidWorks configurations allow user to maintain multiple variations of a part or assembly within a single file document.
And then Jennings says an alternate version.
Alternate version, yes, that's a good one. I like that one. The differences can be set by changing values, suppressing features or parts, changing other parameters, things open, close, extend, retract, fold, unfold, that kind of thing. So what's the benefit of using configurations? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. You can see some changes. Yeah.
So your side mounted platform versus an end mounted platform and where that's going to fall on the tail shelf.
Okay. Yeah, you can do that too. That's good. That's a good one. Using the alternative positions of parts. That's a good one. like changing mating and things and moving parts around. That's a good use for them. So the big benefits, multiple variations of a part in a single file or single source of truth is what we do. And what did you say? Source of truth, bow to the Team Center for all the people on the call. We use Team Center PLM. So we might dig into some of that if we have some time on like a little bit of configuration management inside of Team Center. Since we have quite a few Altec and people here, that might be something we can add later. So, pros. Any pros? It's easy to switch between them? Yes. Yep, changing alternate position for a customer to show, yeah. Any pros in the chat?
Reuse same part, just different size.
Reuse same part, different size. That's a good one.
Deepak says shape, size mainly.
Shape, size, okay.
Reuse geometry, Annette Jennings.
Yep, reuse geometry. So in part files, it allows the user to create families of parts with different dimensions, features, and properties. In a previous career, my entire day was developing motor adapter plates to fit on different kinds of linear actuators. So I would get a call from a customer and say, I want an actuator with this motor, this coupling, and I want it to fit in this space. My entire day was devoted to working on one file that had hundreds of configurations in it. So I got really good at managing configurations. It wasn't something that I was proud of, but when I first started in there, I come in there and started making my own parts, and my boss was like, you have one, just change some dimensions and it all is good. It's all done. So we ended up creating macros to change the dimensions for us. So we didn't even have to worry about creating new files. We just opened up the design table that was in there and changed them up. So I kind of took a chance and threw together one here that's very similar to what I was making before. We had some countersunk screws. We have a pilot that the motor sits on, a pilot that the actuator sat in, and a through hole where the coupling went. But being able to use those configurations, I can come in and change any of those dimensions and make sure that I get what I want and get what the customer wants fairly quickly. And I can go through and just change one or two dimensions, save it as a configuration, and I'm done. I'm done. I don't need it anymore. Sounds like they got a party over there too. Yeah.
Same, it's like using equations, changing that with the equation, you could change the value there, and it would also change the height or how big a part is. Is that like kind of the same thing? I've never used configuration.
So you can use equations that way. The problem is when you start doing equations and configurations, you're gonna have to tell the dimensions when to ignore the equation or when to change to a different equation. So it's a little bit more complicated. And you say you don't use configurations. Well, actually you do, whether you like it or not. If you do flat sheet steel or do sheet steel creation, when you create that flat pattern in your drawing, it creates a derived configuration. So you might not think you do a lot of work with them, but inadvertently you are kind of working around a configuration. So a derived configuration it's linked to the parent ahead. So everything in that flat pattern is linked to the actual final shape here.
Yeah, I gotta mention changing positions as well.
Changing positions, yeah, that is a good one. So here we have our cabinet here. We've got, and I don't know why my shadows are turned on. I don't want any of that on.
I know, I didn't go in and tweak my settings.
I didn't either. That's for another presentation.
Yeah.
So we got our sheet steel part here, but inside that sheet steel, you go to your configuration tab, which is on the left-hand side. Looks like two little Lego blocks stacked on top of each other. Expand it down, you'll see it kind of indents in. That denotes a derived configuration. Now, if I was to create other ones that aren't derived, I can just create, configurations. You'll notice that they're not indented together. That means those configurations are independent. They are not linked. This a derived configuration is always based off the parent. So if you have multiple sizes, if I change, let's say I change this dimension, we'll make this one wild. We'll do some weird shape here. Control B to rebuild only the features that I did. I know it's weird, isn't it? Looks weird. But you'll notice that I can, oh, dang it, I didn't change it. But see how this is one of the things we can do to show while we're at it. So let's go back. Go back to
Don't
our,
use reload.
yeah, don't use reload because it's not here. But when you go to create your dimension, on the bottom over here, you'll see like a little drop down. Select that. Tell it in this configuration, you want that dimension to be 6 inches. Same thing over here. Click your drop down. You want it to be this configuration. You want it to be 8 inches. So now we've officially broken apart our configuration sizes, and we'll shrink them back down to what they need to be. So when I go back and forth, you'll see, I don't care. Stop giving me warnings. We can jump back back and forth. Notice they're independent. The dimensions are independent from each other. I've told them I want them to be different. This flat pattern will always be linked to the regular size.
Yeah, put in the chat. He must remember one of our presentations from before. He said IronSWUG, where two presenters blame each other for messing with each other's settings.
Yes, he does. Yes, in a previous year, I borrowed Adam's computer because we couldn't go this back and forth thing, and all of his settings were completely wrong. So
No, wrong. Just the way I like.
wrong. So yes, you may not think you do configurations, but in reality, you're doing configurations all the time.
Can you configure? Question in the chat from, sorry, I don't want to butcher your name. Bonnie?
In appearances, I would stick to display states because you don't want to add extra configurations in there.
Everybody's replying to the same thing. Deepak says
Use display states instead.
Yaya says the same thing.
So in assemblies for configurations, it allows us to move parts around, extend, retract, different assembly stages and things. And it allows us to, get an idea of how things fit together, whether it's in motion or if it's in a specific state. So we all are big fans of sci-fi, at least I am. Ghostbusters, Trap, I downloaded years ago, but it allows me to see how the lid opens and closes while I'm modeling on one side. So if I change some parts, I can see how it all affects, how it all is affected. All right, that's great, right? Are there any cons to configurations? Now, we have pros. Are there cons? How about in the chat? Any cons? File size? Okay. Anybody in the chat? We got file size. Yeah, file size by Yaya. Okay.
Missing documentations.
Yeah, missing documentation.
Deepak says too many configurations increase file size and performance.
Yep.
Stephanie Lopez says rebuild time.
Rebuild time. Yep.
Yaya said rebuild time if set incorrectly to all configurations. So
Yep. Just exactly. Yep. So, yep. So, one of the biggest things we run into with configurations is we start creating them because, oh, we don't have to worry about creating multiple files. We start creating configurations. Well, we get messy files like this. Lots of suppressed parts, lots of Doritos and meatballs or ketchup and mustard, whatever you want to call it. And, sadly, this is something I helped create, and now I'm stuck fixing it forever because with PLM and PDM, Team Center is life.
James Meyer says he loves configurations.
Yes. We'll do this here. 133 components, 66 unique part configurations, and apparently my computer is telling me to open the file of shame, which I actually do have open because now we can do this. I can show it now because this part is now obsolete, but here is a lower boom weldment for a D3000 large derrick. We're going to kind of drag this out so you can get a good view of some shame that I am now forced to modify every time we have a problem. So keep in mind, this was created in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we didn't have good modeling practices around configurations. So here we go. These are all configurations that we have. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Lots of ketchup and mustard. Even in the there's even one there in the configuration. And if I'm switching back and forth between parts, you'll notice lightning fast. Yeah, it's having to suppress and unsuppress parts. There's all kinds of blown up mates.
Deepak also said another issue is if someone misses to select this configuration, kind of like you did earlier, then the value changes and you end up
Yep.
messing up all the configurations.
Yeah, just like I just showed on that piece of sheet metal. If I forget to change that from all configurations to this one, we will run into the issues where multiple configurations will be changed. So this one was used as like the parent file for all large derrick lower boom assemblies or lower boom assemblies and whatnot. And we'll go to our evaluate tab. We'll go to our performance evaluation, and I'm gonna pull this thing up, make this large so everybody can see it, hopefully fairly decently. So you notice, let's see, let's go down a little bit here. 133 components inside that file. Now, are all of them loaded? No, they're not loaded. When you have configurations, unless you tell it to load all the parts, it will not load all the parts in each configuration that's suppressed. So we have to actually mark them for rebuild. 13 sub-assemblies. There's only 58 resolved parts inside out of 133, only 58 of them are actually resolved in this configuration. So it looks like we're wasting a lot of time trying to pull all this excess data. I know with Teamcenter or with most PDM systems, you're having to pull things from a server onto your machine. It's causing extra file management in the background as well as more time to download files. You're downloading stuff you're not trying to open because I'm not trying to modify every configuration in here, but now we're having to download them all. Out of those 58 resolved documents, there's 82 of them actually are components inside. They probably have subcomponents and subconfigurations in them as well. 237 top level mates, which you would think a part this size would not need 200 mates, but SolidWorks is having to calculate every single mate that's in this file. So we're causing some excess computation time on the machine, excess computation time transferring data between your PDM, PLM servers to your machine, and time just spending fixing mates. Because I don't know about you, if I have a problem like that and lots of stuff, I actually force myself to go through and fix every mate in there. I know a lot of people tend to ignore the bad ones. I just gotta get the job done, get it out the door. But I spend the time and modify it. Good news is that file is now obsolete. That model is obsolete. We don't have to maintain it anymore. So we're good. I don't have to live with that anymore. So, oh, and it's not playing as good. Yeah, box of shame. So, this is what we were alluding to earlier. Larger file size. You're getting 20, 30, 40, even 50% larger files with each configuration. Now, if you start linking that to drawings, which we'll show later, it'll actually increase your drawing sizes even larger. We're talking orders of magnitude larger because you're having to load multiple configurations over and over and over again to show your parts efficiently. We've already talked slower download open times. And then revision management of files. I know in Teamcenter, once you create that configuration, it's virtually impossible to break that configuration out of its parent model into its own model. And this is kind of more of an intermediate SolidWorks skill. So, when you get new hires or co-ops or somebody who's not familiar with configurations inside,
I'm just chuckling to go what you're saying.
yeah, they start it. Actually, we got a co-op who started in. He's like, I'm great at configurations. I will do it. First weekend, he goes in and creates a part with 3, 4, 5 configurations in it, releases them all, has drawings, and then, oh no, one doesn't work. Now he's got to go through and revise everything through the Teamcenter configuration process and causes himself lots of stress, hate, and discontent because he didn't know what he got himself into. So this is probably why more of a intermediate skill, and we try to tell people, think before you configure a part. Do you need a new configuration of that part, or can you just save as a new part number, change the dimensions you need to change, and have it as independent files? That's always what I tell people now. Think before you create a configured part. Especially since somebody like a Teamster champion or a CAD admin will have to go back through and modify or fix any problems that are that arise from it. So now that I've gotten that, oh, it's great, and here's your fair warning, don't do it. Now it's how to create configurations. Does everybody know how to actually create a configuration, or does everybody actually use them? I see one hand that says that that they do configurations. A couple. I know the CSWE back there does, because you have to be really good at it. Okay. So the good news is they've actually made it easier, so we can as they go on. You can do create them manually, like I showed you how to do earlier. We'll dive back in that again. You can use Excel-based design tables, which was what the current was a best practice at the time when I started working in 2007. And then this in 2022, they came out with a configuration table, which is kind of an internally built Excel-based table that you can modify without having to worry about opening Excel file, loading all the data and all that stuff. Does Excel-based design tables, I tell people not recommended if you're using PLM. Same thing with the configurations. You're going to create external links to external files, and you don't want to have to be managing that additionally when you're trying to pull the files in. It will save it directly in the SOLIDWORKS file, but I'm not 100% sure on how each PLM software handles internally saved Excel spreadsheets. So that's kind of a caveat as to the configuration tables were started in 2022. This is just as good, if not better. So we'll kind of dive into on how to do that. So I kind of showed you a little bit. In your feature tree, you've got the 2 stacked Lego blocks, or letter blocks. That's your configuration pane inside your feature tree. We've got some different shapes that are be shown, and we'll kind of go through all of them. I don't know if you can see that very well, but manually created configs have a single brick or square cube. I guess that's cube because it's in 3D. Design table created have the X, the Excel symbol. The indented one is manually with an exploded view or a derived view. Exploded views are actually, I consider them a derived configuration because it's just it's the same configuration with some things moved. And then an Excel design table with an exploded view or a derived configuration. So if you're doing things through a design table and you'll see all these. With that, we've got check mark pops up, says data set's been up to date. It means it's been updated, it's downloaded, it's resolved, everything in that configuration, it's ready to go. If not, you'll get this data set generates on next save. You can actually mark that to tell it to, so that it'll update your configurations, even the ones that are not active at the time on your save. You'll see an icon. I believe this is the same icons currently, but Excel-based design table with a little table underneath. And then the new one is a table with 2 squares in it, which is your configuration table. And this is an example of a configuration table, very similar to the Excel spreadsheet. It's just not having to open a separate instance of Microsoft Excel to edit. It's all built into the software itself. And we'll kind of walk you through that. use my handy dandy R key to pull up what I want. We're going to open up this table here because when you have design tables or you have your configuration table, you got a folder, drops down.
Epoch says there's two more ways to create a config.
Oh,
Configuration publisher.
yep, configuration
or
publisher.
File open assemblies only.
Yes, file, yeah, and that's for the advanced configuration, advanced opens and things. Yes. Configuration publisher is good as well if you're doing mass creation of configurations. But right click on your config table, show table, and this gives me access to all the dimensions I want to change, and I can create more configurations by selecting the dimensions I want to change and just typing in the dimensions that I want out of it. So this kind of gives me a chance to do some, I guess, adjusting and updating to a file and then clicking apply. Notice it creates the configuration in your tree, lets you select that configuration, and all the dimensions have been now updated for what you want. So while I like using the design tables in Excel, creating mass motor plates and things, having this configuration table built inside of SolidWorks makes things way more efficiently. So I'm not having to keep an instance of Excel open, because sometimes if you have an Excel spreadsheet on another screen, you have it in edit mode, or you're in the cell trying to do some editing, you'll get some weird errors with SolidWorks trying to open and link to that. It doesn't like when you have multiple instances of Excel open. So always recommend using your config table. And if it's not showing up there, we'll kind of jump in here. You can go up to your, oh, I can't get to my stuff. We'll go to tools options. The banner up the top is hiding everything, so I can't get to it. But we'll go to your options, and you can type in, let's see, configurations, system options. Let's do that. Config. There should be a maybe it's not an option anymore. Guess not. Okay, so in 2024 connected, it's not an option anymore. You had to turn on the configuration table in previous years. So this is actually kind of nice. You don't have to turn it back on. In 2023, you'll have to actually go through and turn it on as an option. I believe Altec has that default set for our templates and whatnot, so I think you're okay with that.
Epoch says config tables are a lifesaver for scenarios where there is no Excel installed or Excel is not working giving errors.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when you used to have some old Excel tables and it'd pull up and it'd tell you, like, you had one Excel document open and it was a different version of the one that was saved into
Yep, and it
SolidWorks
would crash it.
configurations, and it would crash it, or it'd tell you it couldn't do it because there
Yep.
was a conflict in versions of Excel, and
Yep.
nobody knew what it was. You'd say, oh, close Excel, and then it
Yep.
would open.
Yep. So we'll kind of jump into some best practices here. This is good for everybody, not just Altec employees that are sitting in the room. Think before you config. Do you need a configuration, a display state, or a new file? Once you create a configuration, you cannot easily break it from the PLM PDM parent that you have already set. So be careful when you create configurations, or be careful if you're doing a save as part. Because you save as a part, it's got configurations in it. It's going to want to link all those together. Just be careful. So some examples of what to do with configurations. We've got extend, retract, use a configuration. Want to do left hand, right hand, use a configuration, or a new part itself. Assembly steps, use display states. Don't do configurations. And we'll kind of go into an example of why here in a second. You're doing cut the length extrusions or cut the length pipe. You can do configurations. It's what we like to say is a single parameter change, be it be right to left or length dimension or width dimension, just one parameter change for a configured part. So if you look at our hardware files, the Hexay Cap Screw 25 file has got all the different lengths you possibly could need. That's the only thing that is actually configured in that is the length and the material property. So Assemblies, you can use them for component location change. For parts, significantly similar, one parameter or variant change, and then a big X, not for hide show components. I even highlighted in red. Use display states instead.
I'll throw out a plug for, say, DriveWorks or another software like that.
If you're,
If you have low hanging fruit where it's just a pipe or a channel and it's
Yep.
different links, you can use configurations for that, and that's fine. But if you're on PLM or PDM and you don't want to manage those data sets, you can actually just have DriveWorks create that stuff for you. It's real quicker than people trying to create configurations. You
Mhm.
save them in, and then you have a file telling you what they all are too.
Yep. If you have that.
For Altec
So,
and BKG.
Also, not for hide show components, not for, sorry. I've run into this all the time. People love to create configurations for creating weld steps. You know, step 1, this weld to this weld, step 2, and so on. So here's an Altec case study created by one of our employees. SolidWorks user says, I'm here to complain. This file is very large. It's taking a lot of problems. It's crashing my machine. Why am I having these problems? It's a simple file. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's taking forever to do everything and it's crashing my PC. Is that pretty familiar? I see some nods. Okay. Well, we've all been there. Time to investigate. So, pretty simple. Pedestal turntable, you know, got a couple valves in there, some placards, extend cylinder. Looks very simple. But we have created a drawing with multiple sheets and multiple views with exploded states, assembly states, multiple exploded views per the part itself to showcase how you build the part. Well, we looked into it. It was looked into, and we realized that there's, you know, like 10 configurations in there. Each configuration is linked to a specific sheet. Kind of messy, right? For every view that has a separate configuration than the default is having to load the model again. So you have 10 configurations and 10 views. You're reloading that same model 10 times onto the sheet or into the file itself when you're opening it. And it's causing SolidWorks to have to loop over and over again to open those files and to save and to reload. You're actually kind of you're your own worst enemy in this situation. Now, is this wrong? No, not really. It serves a purpose. It gets the drawing done. Drawing's complete, it's out to the floor, but it's causing us some stress, hate, and discontent on the backside when we go to manage it. Specifically with our PLM, you know, we've got to name all the configurations a specific way so that they don't get pulled incorrectly and create part numbers and all that jazz. I'm not mad, but I just want to know who did it. We actually know who did it, but I'm not going to throw them under the bus. That's okay. So went back through, and instead of having configurations, we went through one configuration with multiple exploded views and different display states. With each display state, you can create a set of exploded views and continue on. You can see now one file is loaded and they're all linked to the pages correctly. So I'm gonna put this up on the screen a little bit. You can see that and take some time to digest it, but with configurations, your open time was 260 seconds. With the display states, it went down to 100 seconds, a 61% time savings just in opening. The swim save dialog, which is our Team Center interface connect, went from 900 seconds to 300 seconds because it's not having to parse through all of the configuration data to try to figure out what's going on. The drawing size dropped as well as the assembly size because now we don't have those configurations. We have roughly 60% in two of the gains, 67% performance improvement. Drawing size alone is 30%, and assembly size is 42% improvement. And I did the math, that's 10 minutes on a swim save. So you think you do that and you kind of figure out how much you do per day, 10 minutes per day or per week, how many drawings you do, and then times it by the hourly rate you're making. This is how much money you're saving your company by properly setting up configurations and display states. Let's see. I got, we'll give it about 5. I don't want to get too long-winded. So we'll just kind of end it with here. Practice your configurations if you would like. Share it with others. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to ask me. If you have an idea of, I want to create something for with the configuration, reach out and you say, is this something that needs to be a configuration? Can it be a display state instead? If so, how do I do it? We can walk you through step by step on how to go from configuration to display state, clean up your models and whatnot. Because in reality, we're trying to do as much work as fast as we can with as little resources as possible. So this is kind of why we configurations were started, I guess, to begin with, because you've got multiple versions, one file, it's easy. Then you end up shooting yourself in the foot by creating more work for yourself inadvertently in the background. So, and with that, we'll just take some questions on configs. If you have any in the chat, please shoot them out. We've got about 5 or so minutes left.
Got a statement more than a question. Just
Okay.
saying he had a similar situation where he had a part that had 50 configurations with varying lengths and hole position sizes and such like that. And he said the loading the file and stuff was just a nightmare.
Yep. So you end up inadvertently shooting yourself in the foot with the way SolidWorks is calculating how that file loads. Any questions in person? Yes.
You said, like you make the exploded view, it makes a new configuration, right?
It's a derived configuration underneath.
So how do you, when you showed your example of how you fix the problem, you do display states. In order to not mess up and get too many configurations, you have to make the display state first, then do your exploded view to link them that way?
Yeah, so if you create the display state of, let's say, some parts that are hidden so you can see internal parts, and then create a new exploded view with those parts moved. So you can collapse that exploded view, open the other one, main this exploded view later. So
Instead of making a configuration of them being hidden and then exploding that configuration.
yes. Yep. I already declined it. We'll send for those on the chat, or for those on the Zoom call, we will have these launched on a YouTube channel, which will go out to everybody who has an email registered with us. We'll send the link out.
Hey, yeah, if you'll put that link in the chat again today.
Yeah. Can you put that in the chat as well, since you already did it? I saw another question. Yes.
Configuration on like sub-assembly. You go look at that assembly and go drawing for it. Do the sub-assembly configurations, you go to the power when you're opening, closing, and saving.
Yes.
So if we have 10 configurations on a body or sales drawing, that's body was hampering our efficiency there.
Yes. Yeah, it's because all the parts that are not loaded in that active configuration are still being downloaded, still being calculated on, and it's taking time, whether you like it or not. So, just be mindful when you start working with parts that have configurations in them. Now, like for cylinders, or parts that are just different cut to length parts, it's okay to do that because it's one change, then the software can do it fairly quickly.